Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tatami. Here we talk about whatever I want to, and today we're going to do an update on my stop motion movie I'm making on my book, which was published for the first time in January. My first published book. I'm so excited. So I wanted to make a movie about it and try my hand at my favorite type of animation, which is stop motion. Y'all, let me do I'm gonna do a history of Leica Studios because that's my favorite studio, and I just learned it's kind of tumultuous history recently, so I'm gonna make a video on that. That's how much I love stop motion. So I planned out the beginning. The very first video I'm making is gonna be like a title page, kind of like a very simple, maybe 10 to 15 to 30 seconds, probably not as long as 30 seconds. Just like as an intro for every video I make after that. So that will be the thing that first plays when I connect them all together, but for every video, just so people know apricity, you know what I mean. Essentially, my plan was originally to start with a book and like pan up and see something, but I think it may be more pointed okay, so I made this sheet of like pinks and reds out of watercolors, and I made a sheet of greens out of watercolors. The plan is to forget what was painted here and just cut out some leaves to make vines and cut out some like flowers. Then I'm gonna put them, okay, excuse my quilting mess right here. But okay, the wall is blue, right? So I was gonna hang the vines and then have, oh my god, I have so much stuff everywhere, y'all. Don't hang out with fucking crafters because we're a fucking mess. A mess. Like, I will clean the house all over, but you will still find my sewing, painting, whatever stuff everywhere. So anyways, so this Barbie is dressed in this dress. She's standing there, la 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 la. She's gonna like reach up, pull the curtain of like plant life back, and then it will show a recreated image of this when she pulls it back, and it will be like a tree, snow, and a little black girl with a fro sitting in the tree, maybe like swinging her legs. And that's gonna be the intro. Is gonna be these letters like kind of maybe forming over her head. Maybe they drop down and form. I'm still drawing that part, drawing the pieces for that. But okay, so you see I have like all the parts made. Okay, I probably need to make one or two more green sheets just to make the vines and then have the flowers be on the vines. And then she'll reach up and pull the vines, one side of the vines back, and we'll zoom in slightly, and then it will kind of, fade from the book. Maybe I'll make the book. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it, but we're going to put like a tree right there, and Barbie's going to like pull back the vine, and behind the vine is going to be the tree, the sun, the warmth of the sun in winter is what apricity means. And, obviously the book isn't actual apricity, right? Apricity is a metaphor. Apricity literally means the warmth of the sun in winter. So for me in this situation, I was able to get the warmth of something in the most cold time of my life. I was able to feel some warmth during some of the most cold years of my life. So that's what this is about, right? It's about like the abuse, but also healing from the abuse. So yeah, I'm gonna have that right there, and then I think that will really portray what I'm looking for to portray, right? I want to explain that this is what you're looking at, is like there's all this foliage, but when you look into it, it's this cold situation, but I'm still trying to bask in some warmth. I'm still trying to find some warmth to feel in that situation. So that is the update for stop motion. I'm still doing it, of course. These updates are as much for you to know like what's going on, because I know a few people follow me specifically because they know I'm trying to make a stop motion movie. And then it's also for me so that I keep feeling pushed and drawn, and also, I feel overwhelmed sometimes trying to think of this movie and how to make it. but literally, y'all, it's one step at a time. I'm not going to let myself get imposter syndrome to the point where I don't even try. Or like the fact that I know by the time I get to these parts of the book, I'm going to be probably a little better at this than I am at these parts of the book. I understand all of that, but I still think that it's going to be a wonderful growth process, and it's going to be a way to share my story, inspire others. Maybe other people will buy the book. And yeah, so let's go over my Riot quilt, which I managed to finish sewing on the fire. Let's see where we are. That's the top. Here we go. So I'm going to pinch and fold. This, I don't knit, but I have knitting needles from my mother-in-law, and my daughter found them recently, and so she runs around the house acting like a teacher. This, learn this. That's literally how she acts with this damn stick. She's like running around, like pointing it at things like hard, like whap, whap. Like, my daughter is the best. She's hella funny. Okay, so you see some of my issue. There's some pulling, there's some things, like this is a product of me not knowing fully what I'm doing. There not really being any, what are they called? Applique quilt artists that I see. There are just not that many of them, so I don't know who to turn to, but it turned out okay. Because the next part, remember, is supposed to be a window frame. So I'm going to be zapping on that next, cutting 3-inch lines of this to make the window. Now, you'll remember from my other video, I went on and on and on about like, what do I use for his skin? What do I use for the young man flexing in front of this window of burning fire with his back right at the crossroads? What do I do? So I purchased a 2-yard set thing of sparkly fabric, and it's sparkly black fabric, like a shiny black fabric, and I think that is gonna look really interesting on this quilt. What do I do with quilts? I'm gonna make a video about that. What do I do with these damn quilts? I don't know, but my heart says to make them. I just want to make these quilts, preserve them, and then maybe someday, 40, 50 years from now, somebody will be like, what all was going on? What were people thinking? What was the average person thinking during this time? And maybe they'll find my quilt and get some semblance of what somebody was thinking at this time, which was that it's time to let some stuff burn to rebuild. So that's what this quilt is. I finally finished the fire, hand stitching the fire, and I'm going to use my sewing machine to do the straight lines to make some stripes of this to make the fire, and then hopefully the pulling of the fire in the background won't be so terrible once, because I did expect some folding and stuff in the fire, but I was hoping it would drape more down than like feel stretched to the side. I'm not sure exactly how to fix that, but you know what it is. You learn, you live and you learn, you live to see another day, and you practice and you grow. So that's the plan. That's my Riot quilt update and my stop motion update. I think you'll notice I'm just somebody who always has plans. They're usually artistic and very involved, and some of them just never get done, but these are 2 projects that I really want to finish. I really want to finish the Riot quilt. Of course, the stop motion is number 1 on my list, but it's very daunting and overwhelming. It's very overwhelming, especially when you don't know the rules of movies. You don't know the rules of animation. You don't know, there are a lot of rules out there, and I'm realizing the more I'm studying them and studying movies that I don't know them. But at the same time, I think it's okay to try, even when you don't know all the nitpicky little rules. You didn't go to school for this, because sometimes stories need to be told, right? And excuse you me, but point me to the person who's making stories of any kind for young Black girls who are molested and sexually abused at a young age. I've never seen it. The Precious is my favorite movie because that was the first time I saw a modern version of my story. And The Color Purple before that was one of my favorite books because it was one of the first times I ever heard someone saying my story. So I'm not saying Apricity is going to be the level of Precious or The Color Purple by any means. But I do think it's a conversation that needs to be continued. A conversation of black kids, even biracial black kids, which, remember, in the black community, we're starting to see biracial black people as biracial and not black, but the white community absolutely is still seeing anyone biracial. Shit, anybody who's like a quarter of blackness or another race, and you can see it in their phenotype, is labeled as that race for white people. So, you know, that's how I was raised, and that's kind of the perception with which I tell my story, because this book was written almost in its entirety when I was like 16, 17 years old, and I only was able to, you know, I edited it as an older woman, but a lot of it was written at that age where I considered myself a black woman because that's how I was treated and seen in the, you know, white community. And we just don't get our stories told very much. It's all dismissed. Biracial, monoracial, which isn't really a thing among black Americans. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, most people are about 10% something else. And so, you know, I just think our stories need to be told, and they're not going to just be told. We have to fight tooth and nail for our stories to be told, be it by quilting. I don't know many famous black quilters besides Faith Ringgold, and I know there are so many black quilters, right? When I read that book, My Quilt and Me, I forget who wrote the story, and I don't think the book is actually in here, but, you know, it was like, this is a revelation, because we have G's Bend quilters, but if we don't know them by name. They took their quilts and put them in the, like, you know, museums, and nobody knows who these women are individually, what their stories were individually. Our stories kind of get co-opted, and it's really difficult to put our stories out there and have it turn out right, and not just be using for capitalism or not really telling the stories. So this is an opportunity for me to tell the story from my perspective, from my own book, which is really cool because I get this medium on YouTube and I have people like you watching. So thank you so much. I'll give you more updates as I continue, especially as I continue to create the leaves and vines and other parts of this imagery for the beginning. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. May your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads.